Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cultured Pull List. In this week's episode, we will be talking about a newer Batman story that came out last year, Batman Failsafe. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is the Cultured Pull List, part of the Cultured Universe podcast network. We are your hosts, Mike and Luke from Casual Experts. So, we do talk pretty much exclusively about comic books on this show and comic book adaptations. But I did want to, last week we did talk briefly about Argyle in our Kingsman
Mhm.
review last week because it's by Matthew Vaughn, felt kind of related,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I saw that I saw your letterbox review, and I do
Uh-huh.
agree the blonde hair was awful. But
Yeah.
what were your thoughts otherwise?
Um, I liked the first half of the movie, and
Hmm.
I heard because there's quite a few twists,
Yeah,
and the first couple of ones was like, okay, I'm still on board, but
yeah.
then after a while it begins to fall off. And the reason why I brought up the wig specifically is because it's around that same point in the
Okay,
movie, so I thought it
that's
was kind of like a funny correlation.
that's fair. Yeah,
Um,
that is funny.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good
Hmm.
action scenes. There's one
Yeah.
in particular that I liked, the ice skating one. I thought was a lot of
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, I really like the
Um,
ice skating and the train scene. Those were both really
yeah,
those are
yeah,
probably my favorite parts. But yeah, it got really crazy with the twists, and like by
mhm,
the end, I would just kind of like whatever. I like I'm just accepting there's gonna be a twist every second now.
right,
But like it was a lot of fun, but I
yeah,
think I've seen a lot of people like really hating on it. Like okay, like
mm,
I totally understand people not liking it, and I've seen very like valid criticisms of it. Yeah, but like it's just a fun movie. It's probably one of Matthew Vaughn's weaker ones, but
for
like
sure.
it's still fun and it's still got his style, which I
Yeah,
feel like sets it apart from a lot of
mhm,
other action, genre movies.
mhm,
But yeah, I've seen people like just hating on it like really bad and giving it like horrible reviews,
yeah,
and feel like people are taking it a little too seriously. Like,
mhm,
lighten up a little bit or something.
right,
But yeah, anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the actual book we're covering, Batman Failsafe. It came out, the graphic novel, the trade paperback came out last year, but it was published in 2022.
mhm,
And it centers around Failsafe, this android that, well, we'll get into it more, but basically was designed to be a failsafe against Batman if he ever like went too far or became a killer. But
mhm.
to kind of understand more what's going on with this, we kind of got to go and talk about the Batman of Zen. What is it? Zen. Sorry, Zer and R. There we go. Zer and R. I
Yeah,
can never
yeah,
remember it. First showed up in 1958, and he was originally an alien that brought Batman to his planet and was like, "I need your help to do Batman stuff on my planet," kind of thing. But he modeled his whole look after Batman. But
mhm,
then in the 2008 Batman Rip storyline, it was retconned by Grant Morrison, where Zur-En-Arrh is actually a subconscious part of Bruce Wayne's mind that he created basically to like in case he was ever mentally compromised. I guess Zur-En-Arrh was supposed to like take over. And this kind of happened like it was part of his subconscious, so he didn't really realize he did this. But
mhm,
he's basically Batman devoid of Bruce Wayne, like without
right,
any of the feelings or holdups that Bruce Wayne has. So he's supposed to be just pure Batman, but that kind of makes him kind of sadistic, like a lot
mhm,
more violent and crazy. But he doesn't show up that often,
right,
but he is a big part of this story and the current Batman run, which is kind of like a sequel to this. All right, so let's get into Batman Failsafe. This was written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, Balin Ortega, and Leonardo Romero. The colorists were Temu More, Jordi Belair, and Luis Guerrero. And the letterer was Clayton Cowles. And this was a 6-issue arc that was originally released between July and December of 2022. Like I said earlier, it was released as a trade paperback in, I believe, March of 2023. Before we start the actual story, there are a few kind of context things with what was going on in the Batman series at this time. Bruce Wayne, like after the whole Joker War storyline, apparently Joker, like, sullied Wayne Enterprises' name and caused it to go bankrupt, and Bruce basically lost his fortune. Also, Alfred was killed by Bane a few years back in the comics. So, yeah, just that is kind of important for some of the minor context of this story. But so this story starts with a flashback saying another time in the Batcave. We see Alfred doing his butlery duties, and we see this beep starting to go off, this little alarm, and we see Alfred go to some separate like corner of the bat cave and to turn off whatever was beeping. Next, we see Bruce having this crazy dream where there are three Jokers. They don't look like the Jokers from the Three Jokers, so I don't know if this is a reference to that or if it's something else. The one on the right actually looks like the Joker from the Batman Beyond movie. But Bruce wakes up from his dream and he calls Selena, I guess just for some comfort, but she's got some guy there, and he's like, "Yeah, I need to move on from the past." So we next see Batman taking out his anger on this guy who is holding some people hostage. There's this hostage situation, and Batman throws the guy out the window, but a little bit too late because the people that the guy was holding hostage are dead. One of them, Bruce, actually, I think he was kind of friends with when he first returned to Gotham. But this is part of a bunch of rich, basically all the rich and powerful, the elite in Gotham are being targeted. Um, as victims of these murders, and this is just the latest one. And it turns out that the Penguin is behind it. He sends out a video message to Gotham, basically painting himself as like one of the normal people in Gotham, one of the lower class citizens who, like, rose from the bottom to, which isn't, true. He inherited a bunch of money, but he basically puts a target on all the rich people in Gotham, saying that if they don't give away all their wealth to charity or something, that, like, yeah, he says he's killing anyone in Gotham who's inherited over $5 million unless they give the money away to the people of the city. And if you die and your family inherits your money, then he'll kill your family. So yeah, a lot of nice stuff going on. But Batman sees this and he starts to prepare to kind of figure out who Penguin's going to hit next, and he gets an invitation to this gala, and he assumes that Penguin's probably going to make his move at the gala. So Bruce shows up at the gala as Bruce, but Tim is there, Robin is there, trying to find trying to figure out whatever Penguin's planning, and he snuck Bruce's cowl and bat utility belt into the gala and slips it to Bruce through the bathroom ceiling. And Tim eventually finds a bomb filled with gas that was put in the boiler room, and it's intended to fill the gala with poisonous gas. So then Penguin shows up with a gas mask saying, "Oh, you're all gonna die," but Batman shows up in this really entertaining makeshift bat suit that's basically just him in his suit with his belt and cowl on. But he he confronts Penguin, who turns out to actually be Clayface in disguise, and I think the bomb does end up like going up. I think there's like a second bomb that was intent just to blow up the whole area, and Batman tells Tim to get everyone to safety, which he does, but in his haste, he doesn't pay close enough attention. And one of Penguin's men shoots Tim through the neck, and Batman quickly gets Clayface to help him get all the people to safety, and then he takes Robin to the hospital, and he has to change him out of his Robin outfit to avoid compromising their identities, their secret identities, and this kind of gives him a bit of a flashback to when he had to do the same for Jason when Jason died. But after dropping Tim off at the hospital, Bruce goes back to his bat cave, gets his bat suit on, and comes back to the hospital, but not to visit Tim, to visit Penguin, the real Penguin, who is currently in the hospital, seemingly in pretty bad shape. Seems like he's gonna die soon, and he basically explains to Batman. Basically, he just wants to make everybody who gave him a hard time, like he wants to make them pay, because even though he inherited a fortune from his parents, he still had to fight really hard to get where he ended up because nobody took him seriously in the more influential, wealthy circles. But after he explains this to Batman, he pops a pill in his mouth, which kills him, and he frames Batman for it because he calls the nurse. He uses the nurse call button, and she walks in just as he dies. And the way, like, he makes it look like Batman killed him, and that's what's in the papers the next day, that Batman killed Penguin. And then we cut to the Batcave. No Alfred, because Alfred is dead. And we see the beeping going on again. And we see that Failsafe is activated. So seems like the next night, Batman's out patrolling with Tim. Tim got his neck patched up, and the doctor says that he's fine. So that's all good. So Batman goes back to his Batcave, where he is brutally assaulted by Failsafe, kind of out of nowhere. Bruce doesn't know what the hell this thing is. He tries to fight him off, but the thing is just as skilled as he is, but way stronger because, he's a killer robot. And after getting a bit of a walloping, Bruce is able to escape with his Batmobile. He escapes out into Gotham City, and he tries to fight back again against Failsafe, but it's no good. It counters everything that he has and continues to beat him. And Batman does ask, like, who he is, not really expecting him to necessarily say anything, but he just says that his name is, that he is Justice or Failsafe. And then before he can kill Batman, some of the Bat family shows up. Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown and the Signal. I think that's one of the Fox boys. I forget. I think it's Jax. I can't remember. But the Signal. They all three show up and kind of distract Failsafe, but he kind of beats the crap out of them. But they distract him enough for Batman to be taken away by Robin into the Batmobile, and they drive off with Failsafe in hot pursuit. But then Nightwing shows up and is able to hold Failsafe off a little bit longer so Batman and Robin can escape. But Failsafe is able to just beat the crap out of Nightwing and the rest of the Bat family. And using the Signal's helmet, Failsafe is able to get into Batman's new system so you can track him, basically. So Batman and Robin go to one of the Bat caves. I think it's one of the older ones. And Batman leaves Tim and goes into a separate part of the cave where he changes into this nice, colorful Arrh Batman costume. And he seemingly let the Arrh personality come out because he suspects that Arrh was actually the one that built Failsafe, and that's why he doesn't quite recognize him, but Failsafe is kind of familiar to him. Then we have an interesting flashback to the Justice League Babel story. That's the story where I forget who it is. I know in the movie it's Vandal Savage, but in the comics it's somebody else. But
I think it's Ra's al Ghul.
Okay, yeah, he takes Batman's like information on all the Justice League members and turns it against them. And there's kind of that iconic conversation between them where Superman asks Bruce, like, you had a plan for everybody on the team, but did you have a contingency for yourself? And Batman says, like, yeah, it's the Justice League. But then Superman kind of pokes a hole in that logic and was like, well, how does that make any sense if you can just kill the whole like all if you can just kill all the Justice League members, how are we supposed to be a failsafe for you? And that kind of is a bit of a retcon, but also kind of is like, well, he actually had another failsafe, which is oh, failsafe, apt name. So Zur-En-Arrh, Batman, and Robin go down to this other part of the Bat Cave, and he starts making these weapons and assembling some things to fight Failsafe. And pretty soon after, Failsafe shows up in their cave, and Zur-En-Arrh, Batman, and Tim are able to at least fight him a little bit. You have a little better chance than before, but Batman's body is still hurting from Failsafe smacking him around earlier. So then we cut back to Nightwing in downtown Gotham. He and the team are still reeling from their beating from Failsafe, and Nightwing's talking to Oracle, who tells him that Failsafe has planted traps all over the city. And Oracle and Nightwing agree that they're gonna need more than just the Bat family to help out. So yeah, the Bat Cave that Batman and Robin went to was the original Bat Cave that was like under Wayne Manor, I think. But I don't know all the context. It seems like this wasn't in use anymore. But Batman and Robin go up to Wayne Manor and start trying to hide from Failsafe, and they're able to get the drop on him a little bit, but it's not a whole lot of use because he's still able to counter them pretty easily. Um, and Zur-En-Arrh, Batman, almost sacrifices Tim to get an advantage on Failsafe, but this causes the Bruce Wayne personality to take his body again because he can't let Zur-En-Arrh let Tim die. He calls Tim his son, which he is, and so Bruce takes over his body again. He fights Failsafe a little bit, and he's able to get Tim out of the building. He tells Tim to go away and get help, but he's not gonna risk Tim's life just to try and save himself. So Failsafe is able to kind of pretty easily defeat Batman one-on-one and starts beating him within an inch of his life. But right when it looks like this might be Batman's final fight, who should show up but Superman?
All right, so Superman shows up, and right away, Failsafe pulls out some kryptonite, and so Superman, obviously, his tactic now is to kind of stay away from the kryptonite because it's stay out of the range of it. But that was exactly what he was planning for, because um, and then he eventually stabs Superman with the kryptonite, and that's when the Justice League shows up. We have Green Arrow, Martian Manhunter, Black Canary, and Hawk Girl. And then Batman and Superman are both uh, taken out at the base of the stairs, and they look like they're about to die. But then Batman pulls out the kryptonite and he tapes up Superman, and then Green Arrow is able to get, with the help of Tim, is able to get Batman and Superman onto the Justice League helicopter. And at first, they're going to the hospital, but Batman says to go to the Fortress of Solitude instead to kind of get them out of the city. And the Justice League is able to stop Failsafe for a bit, but that's when he shoots him with fire, and then he escapes. And so instead of following the jet to the Fortress of Solitude, he goes to downtown Gotham where Nightwing and Oracle are, and that's when the Justice League follows him and falls into one of his traps, and there's like a magnet thing that can stop uh, Hot Girl's wings, and there's fire for Martian Manhunter, and then he puts like this thing over Black Canary's mouth where she is still able to breathe, but she can't scream, and then it's Nightwing and Green Arrow are the last ones standing, and he presumably defeats them, although it's not shown exactly how. We cut back to the jet, and Bruce basically tells Tim to go to the Fortress of Solitude alone with Superman, and in order to fight Failsafe, he's got to do it alone. So then he jumps off and into the ocean, and just before he passes out, he sees Aquaman, which was his plan. And so we jump 2 weeks into the future, where Batman is healed up more than he was, although he's not at 100% yet. And Aquaman kind of fills him in about what's happened in the 2 weeks. Failsafe has kind of taken over Gotham and kind of turned it into like this dystopian police state, where he has like Oracle hooked up to a computer, and she can kind of see pretty much like as we see later, she's able to monitor pretty much everything because he asks her later on like about like pretty much tracking like every superhero on the planet, pretty much
Right, yeah.
looking for Batman. And then see that yeah, there's just still more pictures of that, and really like this frame of Failsafe looking up into the signal because he's trying to
Yeah.
lure Batman in, and obviously this light's not going to do it, but it's sort of a visualization of that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and then I thought it was kind of funny. He just like turns to it and just like shoots it, and
Right,
then makes an
right,
even big, yeah, a larger
yeah,
symbol with all the
yeah,
drones.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And there's some more cool failsafe imagery. Um, and then Batman, he's kind of coming to terms with it because he's like, um, because at this point Batman's more mature, but he kind of has this monologue, inner monologue about how like he used to like not trust everybody, and that's kind of where failsafe came from. Because much like with Justice League Bad Boy, he didn't trust everybody, and so he kind of created all these different failsafes in case someone went rogue. Instead of now, he just trusts people. Um, and at this point, they're able to be like with the Oracle. Failsafe is able to detect that Aquaman is not accounted for, so he assumes that Batman is in Atlantis, which he is. And then there's this bit where he still has the Bat family that is under captivity because they're not all Orphan and Signal are still on the run, but the rest of them are in captivity, but they're still alive to kind of lure Bruce. And then Failsafe does, and does go to Atlantis, and he's able to kind of fight off most of the Atlantean guard pretty quickly. But in that time, Batman's able to escape and get to the watchtower on the moon, and which is Failsafe figures out that's where he is, and so he's able to get. He follows him there, and Batman gets a gun from New Genesis, which he shoots him, and he's not able to kill him, but he's able to kind of get through his outer shell, which will be important later. Then they fight for a bit, and Failsafe breaks the gun, and Batman gets to this teleporter, and it looks like he's about to teleport to the Hall of Justice, but he kind of reverses the teleporter, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So basically, everything outside of the teleporter teleports, but everything inside of it doesn't. And so Failsafe's now at the Hall of Justice, and Batman's still in Watchtower. Failsafe's at the Hall of Justice, and Batman's trying to get back to Earth, obviously, to fight Failsafe. And but what Batman's realizing is that Failsafe destroyed all the teleporters and jet, so there's no transportation to Earth. And so Batman takes some rubble, and he's able to use his grappling hook is powered by CO2, and so he's able to kind of use that to propel him towards Earth. And then he goes to one of the crashed ships and steals the oxygen from it, and he's able to you then use that to propel him further. But due to the G force, he passes out, and then he kind of breaks through the barrier, and but then he's able to break his fall with his cape, and then he ends up in the Arctic with Superman and Tim, and I guess they've just been there for the 2 weeks, and Superman is not at 100%, but he's getting there, and that is when Failsafe shows up again, and then Superman with I'm not exactly sure what this suit is, but it looks kind of cool, and so I think it's some kind of like Arctic soup or something.
yeah. I'm not sure if we've seen it before in the comics or it was just like one they made for
Mhm.
this story. I'm not sure. He's got a lot of different like little armor
Yes, yes, he does. He
suits.
does.
Like pretty much every superhero has a bunch of different
Right,
suits.
right. And they're fighting, and Failsafe is able to like reverse Superman's heat vision, which takes him
Oh yeah,
out.
he's got like he knows like Kryptonian pressure points, and he like
Right.
he uses one on Superman, which involuntary makes his heat vision go off like
Mhm,
uncontrolled or
mhm,
something.
mhm.
Yeah.
And then Batman has a flashback to his dream, and he's kind of contemplating um, giving up, but then he's like, "No, no, we have to save the day." And there's this cool scene where it's like Failsafe was designed to defeat Batman, but he hasn't had a chance against Batman and Robin. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so then they team up, and they fight him for a bit. It looks like they're going to win. Um, And I skipped the part where so that hole that Batman caused in Failsafe's exoskeleton was able to like get like access to his like internal processing. So Batman creates this thing with nanobots to kind of like update his system to include compassion. And
Yeah,
so
because he couldn't just do like a virus because
right.
Failsafe's like defenses would immediately destroy it, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So they're gonna kind of almost like a Trojan horse kind of thing where
Hmm.
they kind of make it look like it's a good thing, but it debilitates him at the same time. So that was the plan, and he does that actually. But then Failsafe comes back, and and it with compassion
Yeah,
he kills
he
Batman,
compassionately kills Bat.
and he's like, "That was compassion." And then that's the end of the story. Batman is fucking dead, and that's that.
Yeah, so yeah, I like that Failsafe just like leaves, but then he just comes back with a gun and he's like, "All
Right.
right, I'm gonna kill you." Yeah, so I did some research and I think the last panel of the story actually kind of shows Batman is like
Mm,
lying in an alley, but it's kind of nebulous. But it's kind of this shot. But in the next issue, that isn't technically part of the Failsafe story, but
yeah.
apparently the gun that he used transported him to another dimension.
Mm,
Um, and he basically spends the next, several issues in this alternate world,
mm,
and goes on these adventures, and he eventually goes back. Or yeah, here's the other world, and he eventually gets back to his main timeline or his main universe, but not after losing his hand and jumping through a bunch of different universes. So like he
mhm,
he gets like a bat or a utility belt from Adam West Batman. He meets like the Arkham games Batman, like the Batman. He meets old Bruce and Batman Beyond from that
mm,
series, Michael Keaton Batman, and then he gets a robotic hand from the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Um, and he eventually gets back to his main timeline, and then like everything just somewhat goes back to normal, but he's not quite the same. But what's interesting about this is Zurin R. Somehow I don't know if I can't remember if they fully explained it yet. But in the newer, the last like few issues of the current
mm.
run, what's going on now. Apparently Zuranar was able to like collect the multiversal Zuranars like
Oh.
as Batman was going through like the multiverse. So Batman's got a whole like Zuranar multiverse in his head.
Mm,
Um, which kind of comes into play later, but also in the current comics, Zuranar is able to take himself out of Bruce's body and put himself into Failsafe.
okay.
And his mission is basically like he captures Batman, and his mission is to become like the ultimate Batman, basically like the Batman that
Mm,
Gotham deserves, I guess, like without Bruce's weakness.
mhm,
And that's been pretty interesting. Like that's currently going on in the
yeah.
comics. And they're also doing some stuff with Joker, but yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and it's kind of like what's happening in the comics now is basically a follow up to
Mhm,
this, even though they
mhm,
had a little bit of stuff in between.
yeah.
But yeah, Batman Failsafe. What are your thoughts on this story?
I really liked it.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of how it incorporates the other characters because
Yeah,
a lot of times it's either
yeah,
like, um, because it is a Batman story, and so
yeah,
he walks the line of like it still focuses on Batman, but it still
yeah.
features the other characters pretty
Right,
well
right.
as well, and I feel like it balances that really, really well,
Hmm.
with the Bat family and also, the Justice League as
Yes.
well, and it
Yeah.
has those moments of, like, I don't wanna even I don't wanna say, like, fan service, but, like, because
Hmm.
it a lot of times with fan service, it either feels, like, forced or
Yeah.
cheap, but
Yeah.
in this story, it, like, fits in really naturally, and I think
Yeah.
that yeah, I really liked it.
I totally agree. Yeah. I really liked all that. I liked that the Justice League were in it. I thought that was cool, but they didn't feel like, it didn't feel like it turned into a Justice League story or anything.
Right, right.
Like it would honestly felt more like forced if they didn't show up and Batman had to handle this
Mm,
all on his own.
mhm.
And yeah, I like that the Bat family were in it, and I just think Failsafe is really interesting and really
Yeah.
interesting character. I feel like what he did, what the writer Chip Zdarsky did, kind of retconning like the whole like Justice League babble thing, because like he kind of made a good point. At least Superman in this, like, how does it make sense? Like it was a cool line, you know, where like the Justice
Mhm.
League is my, but like it doesn't really make sense if Batman can just kill them all.
Right.
So him having like an actual failsafe, and it's very interesting that like he's just so overpowered, but it kind of makes sense because Batman,
Mhm.
like he has all of Batman's knowledge and resources basically. He just has none
Right.
of his weaknesses or restraint.
Mhm.
So like it's kind of makes sense that he's like OP as hell. But
Right, right.
I also think that makes like they did a really good job making him feel like a really big threat to like everybody.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I kind of thought as soon as Superman showed up that it was like, oh well, it's over now. But then like he just beats him pretty quickly too, you know.
Right, right.
It's also very interesting. Like he's very single-minded. Like he just wants to stop Batman, and
Mhm.
he doesn't seem to have any sort of thought as to like how that affects anything else. Like he just doesn't care.
Right, right.
It's really funny because like as Batman supposedly went over the line when with killing Penguin, which he didn't, but as far as Failsafe knows, he did, and so he's like, oh, you have to be stopped, but like you know it causes so much like pain and suffering for so many other people, so
Mhm.
many
Mhm.
innocents and the heroes. And then when he takes over Gotham, he basically lets crime go
Right,
run rampant. So I
right.
found all that very interesting. And yeah, like all the art was really cool.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really like Failsafe's design. It's
Mhm.
very cool.
Mhm.
It's kind of similar to Zdarsky's Daredevil run from last year. He seems to like to kind of bring heroes down to their lowest point.
Mm,
Kind
yeah.
of like with this, like he did a similar thing with Daredevil. But he still hasn't maintained like who they are as characters.
Mhm.
And he, you know, a lot like it's not just a complete like beat down the whole time. Necessarily, he lets them like you know allows them to pick themselves back up from it. You know, it's not just like
Mhm.
a let's bring him to his knees and leave him there. You know, so
Right.
I thought that was kind of cool. Oh, and that freaking space scene was crazy, where he was like, of course that wouldn't freaking happen, but I did appreciate just how like nuts it was, because at one point Batman says like, yeah, I'm like 240,000 miles from Earth, and he
Mhm.
takes out like the thruster from one of the javelins,
Mhm.
and he has to use it in spurts so that it doesn't make him pass out and stuff.
Right.
Like it was just so like detailed with how he does it. It like almost made sense, but obviously, like in real life, you'd be freaking dead. But I
Right,
did
right.
like how it showed how ingenuitive
Mhm.
Batman is. It was just a very interesting part of the story. But yeah, I had read like the first four issues of this
Okay.
over the last few months because I was able to find them at. I
Mhm.
think I started out buying the newer Batman from like January or December, like 141, I think, and it made
Mhm.
zero sense to me because I was like, "Who the hell is Failsafe? What is there
Right.
in our Batman?" You know, like I kind of knew, but kind of. So I kept like backtracking, and then I was like, "Oh, there's
Mm.
more." So then I bought, but I wasn't able to find I think the last two issues of this, and I was like, I kind of want to read them. So I was like, oh, let's cover
Right.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so Batman Failsafe, really interesting. I'm
Mhm.
really interested in what's going on in the current run as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you want to pick up Batman Failsafe, there's an Amazon link in the description. But that is pretty much our episode for this week.
Yeah.
Besides our cultured picks, what do you have for this week?
This week, my culture pick is Nightwing and Morilla Gorilla. For those of you who don't know, Morilla Gorilla is a character from Hanna-Barbera. I think it was like before Scooby-Doo. I don't know exactly,
Okay,
but it was like one of their
that
earlier characters.
he sounded
And
familiar.
yeah, yeah. And so in this story, it obviously is not in the mainline DC because
Well,
Magilla
yeah,
Gorilla doesn't exist.
yeah,
It's
right.
like a cartoon character.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that makes sense.
Magilla Gorilla is accused of murder, and Nightwing. Well, because they actually in this universe they have the same agent, acting agent. So like,
Hmm.
Magilla Gorilla through his agent is like, "Hey, I'm being tried for murder," and Nightwing has to basically like solve the murder with help from Magilla Gorilla. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Really silly, goofy, good time.
Yeah, looks like
Yeah.
there's a part where he dressed up as Batman.
Yeah, because
Nice.
yeah, he wanted for murder, so he had to like hide his identity.
That's
But
funny.
yeah,
Nice, nice,
it's great. Big fan.
nice. Cool. Yeah, so I had two for this
Mhm.
week, technically. First off, I had Funeral for a Friend.
Mm.
So, Death of Superman. I'm pretty sure I've said this before on the show, but Death of Superman was like pretty much one of, if not the first, comics that I read.
Mhm.
But I kind of never read any of the like sequels or anything around it until much
Okay.
later.
Yeah.
But I just read this recently. I actually collected the single issues. I
Mm.
think I found pretty much all of them at a Comic Con. Um,
Okay.
but it's
Nice.
it's basically like the direct follow up to Death of Superman and how everyone, all of his friends and family, and just the world is dealing with the aftermath of his death.
Mhm.
It's kind of, even though like Reign of the Superman is the sequel to Death of Superman, this is kind of like a point five, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it kind of sets up Reign of the Superman in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But I think the most interesting thing to me is how the people closest to Superman like are responding to his death, like his
Mhm.
parents and Lois. And
Yeah.
honestly, the main Justice League doesn't really show up in Death of Superman, so seeing how they react to his
Mm.
death was interesting as well. But yeah, as but kind of related to this is a newer comic. Actually, it came out in November of last year. But it was Reign of the Superman. No, sorry, The Return of Superman Special, and it's actually a bunch of new stories. It's a bunch of like one-shot stories from the original creative team of Death of Superman,
Mm.
and all the rest of like Dan Jurgens and Jerry Ordway. They do a lot of the writing and art, and it's basically like a continuous story. Like Lois finds Perry White's notes on what was going on. Like he has a journal of what was going on after Superman died and when all of the Supermen showed up and everything. And it's basically shown through Perry's notes and like flashbacks
Mm.
and stuff. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. So I thought that was kind
Nice.
of cool. But yeah, I think that is everything for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and share and comment, all that fun stuff. If you'd like to support The Cultured Nerd on Patreon, just go to patreon.com/theculturednerd. And if you would like to help support our show specifically, just look for our show's tier on that page. Thank you to all of the current Cultured Nerd Patreon supporters: Wesley H., Mitch S., Connor Y., Anna M., Oscar B., Craig L., and Salib K. Our logo was designed by Jose Navarro, and our intro was designed by myself. Once again, thank you for joining us. If you're watching this at home, you can scan the QR code on the bottom left to check out the Cultured Nerds' other shows and social media and website. And if you'd like to check out me and Luke's other brand, Casual
Mm.
Experts, you can scan the QR code on the bottom right.